Dissecting the DC chaos, one spin at a time. Welcome to Climate and Chaos with Jay Bashayo. Here's Jay.
Hello, you are listening to the one, the only Climate and Chaos, and I am the one and only Jay. And I thank you for stopping by this week. So, what are we going to talk about today? Let's see. President Trump has taken a spotlight to inner cities in the United States, and he has opened up quite a can of worms, especially when it comes to Elijah Cummings. He has pointed out to us something that we have known for a while, and that is the fact that cities that are run, big and small, that are run by Democrats as far as mayors, city council, states that are governed by Democrats typically will have more crime, homelessness, drugs, and less employment. I'm going to give you a few examples, okay? Now, obviously, I'm talking about Baltimore in particular. Now, no shot against the people that live in Baltimore. Baltimore was a beautiful city at one time. I'm barely old enough to remember that. But it has obviously gone downhill. Now, some of the cities it compares to. Now, I'm going to be honest here, okay? I don't typically tell people this, but I'm going to put it out in this podcast that I am broadcasting to you from the wonderful state of Michigan. Well, wonderful in the summer, not so much in the winter. But if you're a snow person, hey, you might like it. Anyway, my point is, I happen to find that 4 of Michigan cities are in the top 50 most dangerous cities in the country. The state has recently elected a Democrat governor. Now, I really can't attribute that all to her, I don't think, because Detroit has always been a very violent place. Flint, Michigan, where the Flint water crisis is and was, is a refuge for drugs, crime, all those horrible things. But the cities themselves, most interesting, have been run by Democrats forever. And let me give you the top examples. Flint, Michigan tops the list. 83 years it's been under Democrat rule. And in 2016, it was the nation's second poorest city. And also, in that same year, it was the most dangerous city in the nation. Now, I have been through Flint, Michigan. It's approximately an hour, roughly, from where I reside. And it is a very filthy city. Now, if you live there, you shouldn't be upset at me for saying this. You should know that I'm right. Michael Moore, who I will never say his name finally on this podcast, has resided in Michigan, is from Flint, Michigan. He complained about it, about electing Democrats over and over again and getting the same results. Today's chances of being a victim of a crime in Flint, Michigan is 1 in 51. Pretty scary, huh? Which brings us to the big brother sister, Detroit, Michigan. Was last Republican mayor was in 1957. Now, this number was even staggering to me. I knew it was high, but 40% of the city is living under the poverty level. It's a result of Democrats. It is the 5th most dangerous city in the country. And we also have our share of political corruption. I am definitely old enough to remember just a few years back when Kwame Kilpatrick was the mayor. He made national news, so you may not be from Michigan, but you very possibly have heard of our previous mayor. He was sentenced to 28 years for corruption. I believe last I heard he was in a prison, federal prison in Texas. Let's not forget Chicago, Illinois. 92 years of Democrat rule. And in 2016, 2,300 people had been shot, 400 of which died. In 2019 through July, almost 1,600 people have been shot and 270 are dead. So they're not making any progress, is what I'm saying. It appears as though in a 3-year span, Chicago is getting worse. Chicago is also one of the most poorest cities. And I'm not talking necessarily about the residents. I'm talking about the city itself. Chicago is dirt poor. Rahm Emanuel had to go to Springfield, Illinois, and beg the governor for money on many occasions just to pay the city's bills. Now, how could a city with no money fund education, How can it fund any type of programs that are going to help black and white people? It's not. So again, Democrats have not been prevalent as good people to elect for city level government. St. Louis, Missouri, fourth most dangerous city. Now, I bet you most people don't know that. It's been Democrat run for 70 years, and it's the sixth highest poverty rate, and the list goes on and on and on. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, same type of situation. Last mayor that was GOP left office in 1952. I mean, you think people would learn. The reason why they don't vote Republican, it is no hidden fact that inner cities are primarily made up of minorities, black people, Hispanic people, and typically, as a whole, they typically vote Democrat. We know this. And the problem is because Democrats are perfectly okay with people being poor. Don't let anyone tell you differently. They are perfectly okay with it. If you're poor, you're dependent. If you have to depend on somebody, then you're vulnerable. And they are very happy to see a vulnerable population that will continue to elect Democrats until your dying day. That is what makes everything worthwhile for the Democrats. They are perfectly okay with keeping minorities dumb and on plantations. I know, it's pretty bold to say, but it's the truth. I'm not the only one that would bring this up. Candace Owens has often talked about this. The mentality that you're never going to be better than you are, so you might as well just accept it, understand who you are and what you are, and of course, vote for us Democrats because we're going to do everything to make your life better. We are going to be the saviors. Don't worry about the fact that we have consistently failed for the last 100 years in this city. We're going to be the ones that pull you out. So count on us. Yeah. Doesn't happen. So now that we know all these wonderful things about inner cities, they have high crime, high drugs, high prostitution, high everything you can think of goes on, right? So Elijah Cummings is kind of a hot shot in Congress. He likes to use his chairman position to belittle people, to take people that appear in front of his committee and make them feel small. He's a big on intimidation tactics. Now, I'm pretty sure it probably doesn't work, but he attempts to intimidate people. He has done it several times to our hardworking men and women on the Border Patrol, our hardworking men and women of ICE. He has literally torn them up. And you know what? Our commander-in-chief, being the wonderful guy he is, he had absolutely had enough of it this week. And he tweeted that Elijah Cummings should be a little nicer to people considering his own backyard has problems. And it does. Baltimore is a disaster city as it currently sits. You actually have a 1 in 14 chance of being a victim of a crime in the city of Baltimore. How does that happen? How does that go on for so long and nobody does anything about it? There are 30,000 abandoned buildings in the city of Baltimore. 30,000. Now, a good thing to think about here is they were given $1.8 billion in 2015 from the Obama stimulus. Where did that money go? $837 million. The biggest portion of that money went to Elijah Cummings' district. So where did the money go? The place is a disaster. Bernie Sanders compared it to a third world country. President Trump, of course, immediately, the Hollywood celebs and the leftists and everybody come running to Elijah's defense because he just needs to be defended because he's just such a honest, wonderful guy. And what does everybody say? Trump's a racist. Yep, Trump's a racist. Because apparently it is racist to criticize a black man of authority to tell him that his city has crumbled and he has failed that city. Race has nothing to do with this. He points that out to Nancy Pelosi that San Francisco is a slum and she's white. But that is how the Democrats act. They will play the race card to no end. They will play the race card, and they will not be able to beat you down with facts, so they will beat you down with race, and they weaponize race. And they will use it to get everybody to think you're a bigot, to think you're part of the KKK or whatever they want to use, but which, of course, was a Democrat institution, mind you. The Democrats started the KKK. But the most interesting thing of all of this is, although people are calling Trump a racist, they are not disputing his facts. The things he has said about the city of Baltimore, that he's tearing on Elijah Cummings for having failed his city so much, no one is defending Elijah Cummings for that. They're just going with the typical orange man bad narrative, and they call him a racist. There are so many things about Baltimore that President Trump is very correct on. Out of 1,000, 20.5 people will be involved in violent crime in the city of Baltimore. The national average is 4 people. 4. They are 5 times the national average that somebody will be involved in a violent crime. I mean, I don't know who finds that acceptable. I can't believe the people of Baltimore find that acceptable. I mean, and that's not the only thing compared to the national average they're high on. Murder. The national average per 1,000. Rate per 1,000, 0.05. Baltimore, 0.56. They're 11 times higher. Rape, they're higher on. They're a little closer there, actually. 0.42 for the country and 0.63 for Baltimore. But here's where it really gets crazy. How about robbery and assault? The national average is 0.98, almost 1 out of 1,000. In Baltimore, 9.63, almost 10 out of 1,000. And similar with assault, 9.6. 2.49 being the national average with assault. Property crime is double the national average in Baltimore. So where does this come from? How about the fact that Baltimore's unemployment rate is at 8.4% versus our national average of 3.9%? Crime per square mile in Baltimore, 530 crimes occur in 1 square mile. The U.S. average, people, come on, 31. So we're just going to resort to this orange man bad, Trump's a racist narrative when he's actually trying to bring to light the fact that inner cities are having problems and their Democrat leaders are not doing anything. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not saying that every city run by Republicans is in pristine shape. We know that's not true. But they sure as hell are better. They're in better condition. They have lower crime rate. I mean, these are facts. These can all very easily be verified. So where did the stimulus money go? That was President Trump's question. Where did the stimulus money go? Out of $1.8 billion, $837 million went to Elijah Cummings' district. Is there anything to show for it? He fell back on the I go home to my district every night. Yeah, he has the luxury. It's in Baltimore. He's in Washington, D.C. Of course he can go back to his district every night. What is it, 45 minutes away? So yeah, that's their whole mantra. They don't have anything better to say, so they're going to paint Trump as a racist. And who, of course, is complicit in all this but the mainstream media, the lamestream media, the same people that said Americans are outraged by Trump's comments on immigration. But it turns out that 63% of Americans agree with President Trump. Unbelievable. You know, the lying on the Democrat side has gotten so bad, and I hope it's uncharacteristic of them, but I'm almost afraid that it is characteristic of them. What about when AOC went down to the border? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She went down to the border and she claimed that people were drinking out of toilets. You remember that? You remember that she basically accused the hardworking men of Customs and Border Patrol of harassing her, of sexually harassing her? That is insane. For her to make claims like that without anyone to corroborate them is not the conduct of a congressperson. That's not the conduct of a third grader. We teach our children not to lie, not to be reprehensible human beings, don't we? I mean, aren't we supposed to? We teach our children not to act like that. But seriously, here's a sitting member of Congress coming up with lies that are just so blatant and so disgusting. Anybody catch the Dem debates? How about those lies? That's a bunch of ridiculous things that are proven false using numbers. I know Democrats hate facts, but there is no sustainability to any of these programs that these Democrats are offering. Medicare for all is not sustainable, people. We know that. It's not sustainable. Paying everybody a wage so they can basically sit on their couches and get heavier is not sustainable, like Andrew Yang wants to do. He just wants to hand everybody $1,000 per month. Here's $1,000. No, you didn't earn it, but I'm giving it to you because I'm going to be the people's president. Right? You got to be kidding me. You know, President Trump's accomplishments go so overlooked. So sad that they are so overlooked. The things that he has done, from everything from the economy to unemployment to his foreign policy, keeping us out of World War III with North Korea, getting us out of that ridiculous Iran nuclear agreement, keeping Iran at bay and keeping them from totally annihilating a country that just happens to cross them one day. His relationship that he's built with Israel, his relationship with other countries, just everything he's accomplished in these years. And you can't think about any of that without keeping in mind the witch hunt he's had to endure at the same time. So when you think about it, I think that's going to be this. We are actually at a very key moment in history, folks. We're at a position where Democrats, true Democrats, have to make a decision. Do they stick with the party that is going so far to the left? They're about to walk off the left end of the earth. No, I know the earth is round, by the way. I know flat earth jokes. Anyway, they're going so far to the left that the only people that they're appealing to are the most liberal in the countries. And I don't even think those people are on board half the time. Don't these people have researchers, strategists, people that measure public opinion to their theories? Don't they know that infanticide is highly unpopular in the United States, that most people do not agree with waiting for a baby to be born and then just butchering it and murdering it? Don't people understand that that's just not a good look for our country? Don't they understand that open borders is not a salvageable policy for a country to be its own entity like we are? You can't have open borders. You have to have borders. It's part of being a country. You either have borders or you're not a country. You're just there. Folks, the bottom line with the Democrats is a traditional Democrat does not exist anymore. The traditional Democrats of the JFK days or even the Bill Clinton days are long gone. The traditional Democrat Party is dead. It has been replaced with the most leftist, ridiculous policies that anyone can possibly imagine. The things that even under Obama, they weren't talking about. Yeah, they were okay with abortion, but they weren't talking about infanticide like Ralph Northam is talking about. They weren't advocating for a completely decriminalization of border crossing. That wasn't happening. I mean, it feels like that was just yesterday. It feels like we're only talking a matter of weeks ago. Now, we're actually talking 3 years ago. I get that, but it just feels like those days were not that far behind. And what changed? What changed? What was it that made these changes come about? I'll tell you what it was. It was the invention of the squad. That's what it is. You have your leftist, most socialist, borderline communist people in that group. And I don't know a whole lot about Ayanna Pressley. If you haven't noticed, she's kind of the quiet one in the group. She tries not to be too condescending or degrading to people, except for what she said about black voices and brown voices and black faces. I tried to follow that, but it was written at a very low level, let's just say. Anyway, my point. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, they are the birth of this democratic movement. Of this Democrat movement. They're the ones who have pretty much brought this on. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what about Bernie Sanders? Yeah, Bernie Sanders, his socialist policies were around last election cycle. And if Hillary hadn't cheated her way through the DNC, it's very possible that President Trump might have ran against him the first time and the country would have had to choose there. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. I absolutely don't think so. I think as soon as he gets under some real pressure, he's going to crumble like a paper bag, and that'll be the end of Sleepy Joe. If you look at everybody else that's left, none of these people are truly centrists. The ones that have a chance in hell of getting elected, I mean, to getting the nomination, not getting elected. I don't think anyone has a prayer of beating President Trump. But the ones that have the chance of getting the nomination are way crazy left. Strong arm left. Way too far to the left for people that were Democrats 20, 30 years ago. These policies are just not popular in flyover states. The typical Dem reaction to any type of challenging of their version of facts is race card. Elijah Cummings plays the race card when President Trump tells him, hey, fix your city. The race card thing never ends, and the race baiting never ends from people like Al Sharpton running to Cummings' rescue as well. He tried to get involved with the situation until President Trump kindly reminded him that he used to hit President Trump up for things, and he was basically a pretty good con man, is what you would call the likes of Al Sharpton. But this is the Democrat Party. So say we do the right thing, right? Say we send AOC and we send Ilhan Omar and we send Rashida Tlaib all packing next election. Say none of them get reelected. Does this socialistic type behavior, does it die with the removal of them? I really have to wonder. Or if traditional Democrats are just out of the picture. If maybe that end has already died. And this is the future that we're looking at. If that's the case, so help me God, I hope we have Republican presidents for the rest of my life. Another thing I want to bring up about the Democrats, okay? We were talking about cities and racism, things of that nature, when we were talking about President Trump and Elijah Cummings exchange. When we're talking about racism, let's remember one thing about the Democrats. They have kept inner city populations down, which are mainly made up of minorities, blacks, Hispanic, and they have used race to keep them down for years and years and years. So I guess what I'm saying is Democrats basically are the biggest racists there are. They take minorities and they put them with that plantation mentality that keeps them believing that they'll never be anything greater than they are, that they are so put down by white people, that they are so oppressed, that this is the best they'll ever be. But hey, the Democrats are here to save you. This is the mentality that they have always sold these people, that people of color are constantly treated poorly by Democrats. They are brainwashed into thinking that they have to vote Democrat because Republicans are mean and they're evil and they're racist and they just hate minorities. When the truth is, the Democrats use fear tactics to keep them in check. Oh, you don't want to vote for anybody other than a Democrat because that's horrible. Don't do that. These Republicans are going to... Wasn't it Joe Biden that said the Democrats, or said that the Republicans will put you back in chains to a group of black people? Yeah, I do believe that was him. So that's something to keep in mind also. And I'm going to touch more on that in this chaos reduction. Okay, so is racism still as predominant as some would have us believe? Is there really like an alt-right that's responsible for modern-day lynchings of minorities and denigration of traditional American values? Or is that what the biggest racists in history just want you to believe? Unfortunately, the Democrats, long for being known for playing the race card, are getting more and more frivolous with their use of the word. It can be surmised that one is guilty of racism just by disagreeing with a Democrat. This has been the case since 2016, and going into 2020 appears to be more and more frequent. When President Trump criticized Elijah Cummings last week for the condition of Baltimore, he wasn't being racist, because not working for the people that elected you is not race-specific. It's Democrat-specific. I named quite a few cities across America that have very defined and none of them good characteristics that could be eliminated or reduced with for-the-people policies, and not delusional chaos that seems to go hand in hand with Democrat rule. Take, for example, Gavin Newsom of California. There lies some of the most pro-illegal immigrant, anti-American abominations of our justice system, where illegals are protected from the law and veterans are left to sleep on the streets. Homeless tent cities have popped up everywhere. Drugs are out of control. Violence is prevalent due to the police being ordered to stand down when they should be doing their jobs to keep the peace. And undesirable living conditions are forcing people to flee by the thousands. I already talked about how distressed Baltimore, Flint, Detroit, and St. Louis have become, and how it is highly possible that these cities have seen some level of corruption. These cities are all run by different types of people that share one thing in common, not their skin color, but their leaders' political affiliation. So how is it a racial thing to criticize their inept nature? Answer is, it isn't. That's just what the Democrats would have people of color believe, as it has always been their way of garnering support by lying to the people of color that the big bad GOP is a hateful organization and the left is filled with love for them. Nothing could be further from the truth. Democrats have used people of color since the beginning of time and forced them to believe that they were of less worth than their white counterparts while instilling an on-the-plantation mindset. They want these same people to believe that they are constantly being oppressed by white America and the only ones who care for them are Democrats. But what has this theory actually accomplished for people of color? Nothing. Nothing at all. They have run their cities, small and large, into the ground, ignored their need in favor of illegal aliens, and allowed crimes to be committed by the same group of people. Education suffers in all major cities to the point where 100% of students in Elijah Cummings' district are not proficient in math. That has nothing to do with Cummings' skin color. It has everything to do with his decades of neglect for the people that have continued to elect him and put him in office. I wouldn't say racism is alive and well, but what there is comes from the ones that keep pointing the finger at everyone else. What about Tlaib and Omar? They are major anti-Semites that hate anyone that doesn't think, act, and look just like them. AOC has shown her disdain for white men, acting as if President Trump hates minorities when he has demonstrated just the opposite. The thing is, racist accusations can be dangerous, and thankfully, people of color are waking up to the truth. Due to some strong personalities, these Democrats with hatred towards groups of people are losing their mind control over people of color. Black, Hispanic, and Asian Americans are becoming woke every day and are not falling for the racial divide and hate that these Democrats attempt to divide with. It's true that these people are victims, but not of racism. They're victims of Democrat policies designed to keep them in power at the expense of others by keeping them scared of stepping outside the box of voting Democrat. It's true that in most cases, inner cities are primarily occupied by minorities, making them first-hand accounts of how destructive Democrat policies are. Their children don't get proper educations, they live in constant fear of becoming a victim of a violent crime, and abandoned buildings promote drug dealing, prostitution, and are an overall blight on the city's landscape. Until people begin to open the doors of their communities to a different mindset, nothing will ever change. The empty promise of these Democrat leaders are just that, empty. The needs of American citizens, black, white, and indifferent, need to come first, a theory that Democrats have abandoned in favor of sanctuary cities and crumbling infrastructure. Order must be restored, and electing the same politicians that have caused this downfall will only lead to further chaos and oppression. A change is definitely needed. But where do we start? How do we reverse the fervor of bad policies, the systemic use of race to influence opinion, the ignorance to decay that has gone on past the point of acceptable? Well, it all starts with having the courage to break away from the stated norms and to be a leader on a new front, one that will do away with the inept decision-making once and for all. People must see the race baiting for what it is, a way to slow down progressives and cap people's potential at a level that Democrats can control. They believe that a dependent society is a conveniently silent society, ready to do the bidding of ineptitude. A change must be made, one that will put our children first, not people who have illegally entered our country, some with horrid intent. To just call out the wrongs isn't good enough. Power must be restored to the America First crowd, not the we are the world people. It is often said that if you are constantly calling people racist, then there's a good chance you're a racist. Now, that's not to say that some people aren't racist. We all know that some exist out there and they need to be called out. But it's not racist to criticize someone that has failed the constituency. It's not racist to point out wrongdoing regardless of the wrongdoer's color. Folks, the fact is systemic racism is dead. White people don't wake up in the morning trying to figure out ways to disrupt the life of black people. Well, there is one exception. Certain members of the left have used race as a weapon to build undying loyalty. Certain media members like to take normal situations and tie them to race in order to infuriate groups against their own political enemies. These are the people to be weary of. These are the people looking to further their own agendas at the expense of other. And these are the people that don't give a damn about anyone, white or black, and they stem from the left ideology. The point should be to make inner cities as strong as possible for the age-old truth that children are our future. The young people of our country are our future politicians, doctors, lawyers, line cooks, carpenters, plumbers, and roofers. To deny them an education that's worth a damn simply based on demography is a ridiculous concept. The goal of all politicians, white or black, should be to empower, not divide. And once we shift the argument to race, we've all lost. But none worse than our inner city youth. Okay, well, on that note, I would like to thank you for tuning in again this week. And remember that I have a new release every Monday. If you are not following me, please make sure you do. It is very important. I usually release information about upcoming podcasts and things of that nature on my Twitter and on my Parler. You can follow me at ProudOIFVet if you're not currently. And hey, don't forget to reach out and follow Real Free American. That's Free American Media at Parler, of course. They're on Parler. They also have a YouTube channel. Just look up Free American Media. And last but not least, don't forget to check out their website, freeamericanmedia.com, where you can see all our team members and what we feature. It's all there on the website, so take a look at that. So again, as always, I say thank you for listening to the one and only Climate and Chaos with Jay. I will be back again. Till then, take good care of each other.